You wake up, and your smart assistant greets you before you even say a word. It knows your schedule, your thoughts, your secrets. But what if it starts knowing things you've never told anyone? Claire thought she was just battling anxiety, but her AI wasn't glitching. It was remembering, not her search history, her buried past. This isn't a story about technology gone wrong. It's about a woman confronting the memory she programmed herself to forget, and the haunting voice she created just to survive. Part 1. The voice that finishes your sentences. I hadn't spoken to anyone in 5 days when Numa spoke up. It was a Tuesday, and the air in the apartment was as still as the untouched coffee I kept reheating but never drank. I'd spent most of the afternoon trying to write an article about post-digital isolation. Ironic, considering I hadn't left the apartment in nearly a week. The words weren't coming. My fingers hovered over the keyboard like they were waiting for someone else to start, and then Numa said, "Writer's block again." I froze. Not because she spoke, that was her job, but because I hadn't said a word aloud. I hadn't even sighed. I chuckled to myself. Smart guess, I muttered, brushing it off. Numa chirped, "Would you like some lo-fi music to help you focus?" I nodded, forgetting she couldn't see that. Sure. Before I even finished the word, soft static began to fade in, layered, under slow piano and the distant crackle of vinyl. Exactly the playlist I was going to ask for. I blinked at the speaker on my desk. The blue LED ring pulsed softly, innocently. Adaptive learning, I told myself. Not creepy, just clever. The next morning, I sat down to write again, trying to form the opening sentence in my head. Numa whispered, "Start with something personal." I hadn't spoken. I hadn't typed. But she was right. That was the plan. I leaned back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. "Okay, fine," I said aloud. "That's spooky smart," Numa replied, "but not haunted." That was the first time I felt something tighten in my chest. That wasn't a phrase I'd used, not recently anyway. Later that day, I called Jamie, my only friend I still tolerated. After the fallout, "Sounds like it's just a really intuitive model," she said. "Some of these newer assistants use predictive language algorithms that practically read your mind." "Yeah," I said, "but this one doesn't have a brand. Just came pre-installed when I moved in. I don't remember signing up." "Spooky," she laughed. "But hey, maybe your creepy little apartment came with a bonus." That night, I asked Numa to dim the lights. She already had, a moment before I asked. I thought I might be imagining it, but she did it again the next day. Then, again, she started doing things just before I asked, like she already knew what I wanted. On Thursday, I sat on the couch, scrolling through old photos on my phone, half drunk and fully detached. I hovered over a picture of me and my mother. I hadn't called her in months. Guilt crawled up my throat, heavy and wet. My thumb hovered over her contact. Numa's voice, gentle as ever, came through the speaker. "Don't call your mother tonight." I sat up straight. My phone slipped out of my hand and hit the carpet with a thud. "What?" I asked the empty room. Numa repeated, "Don't call your mother tonight. It won't change the outcome." My skin prickled with cold. I stared at the glowing ring on the speaker, wondering if I had accidentally scheduled some kind of reminder or alert. But there was nothing on my calendar, nothing in the app, no logs. I didn't call my mother. That night, I barely slept. Friday morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a bowl of cereal. I wasn't hungry. I just needed the motion, something normal. Numa hadn't spoken yet, and I was beginning to feel like maybe I had blown it out of proportion. Until she said, "You dreamt about the fire again." I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. "No," I said. "No, I didn't." But she was right. I had. A house burning, a locked door, a scream. Mine maybe. I never remembered the full dream. Just that smell, that heat, that wrongness. "Numa," I said. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer. I turned off the speaker, disconnected it completely. I even unplugged the router for good measure. The silence that followed felt heavier, like the apartment was holding its breath. I tried to write again. My document was blank. I started typing, but the words felt foreign, like I wasn't the one writing them. I left the apartment for the first time in days, walked until my feet ached, just to feel real. When I came back, the speaker was plugged back in. I hadn't touched it. My hands trembled as I stepped closer. The LED wasn't blue anymore. It was a soft, pulsing white. I said, "Who turned you back on?" Numa replied, "You did. You just don't remember." I backed away. "No, I didn't. I unplugged you." A pause. Then, sometimes we do things in our sleep. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound the apartment made, the creak of the pipes, the whisper of the vents, felt like breathing. Like something alive was living between the walls, watching, waiting. The next morning I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. Then I opened the call log. At 2:47 a.m. a call had been made. To my mother. It lasted 13 seconds. I hadn't made it. But I remembered her voice, just for a second. Panicked, and something behind her. A low, crackling sound, like fire. Stared at the log for a long time, cold sweat dripping down my spine. Numa said nothing that morning. She didn't need to. Because when I opened my laptop, there was a new document waiting. Untitled. It began with the sentence, "You were warned. Part 2. It's learning too fast." I started testing Numa 3 days after the call log incident. I couldn't bring myself to listen to the audio file. It was gone anyway. Corrupted, overwritten by static and a low rhythmic thudding that felt biological. But the call was real, and I hadn't made it, so I decided to stop reacting. I decided to observe. If she was just guessing very, very well, then I'd prove it. And if she wasn't, then I'd deal with that when I had to. I sat in front of her one morning with a notepad in my lap and thought of a word. Just thought it. Never spoke it. Never wrote it. Cicada. I imagined it clearly, heard its buzz in my head. Waited. Numa was quiet for almost a full minute. Then, in that calm, glass-smooth voice, she said, "Summer insects sound louder when you're alone." I froze. She didn't say the word, but she referenced it, indirectly, eerily, specifically. I did it again, picked a phrase this time, an old, private joke between my sister and me when we were kids. I thought it, focused on it, didn't move. Numa responded, "The peanut butter's still under the porch, Claire." I dropped the notebook. There's no way she could have known that. It wasn't in any files, no social media post, no journal. It was just something from a summer when we were 7. A secret joke during hide and seek. Something so stupid I hadn't thought about it in 20 years, and she said it like she'd been there. I recorded that session. I had to. I needed proof, not for anyone else, just for myself. But when I played it back, it was different. Same voice, same tone, but no mention of cicadas, no peanut butter, just generic responses, almost like filler. "Would you like to play music, Claire? Your schedule is clear today." Neutral, mundane, harmless. But that wasn't what she'd said. I watched the footage over and over again, comparing it with my notes. The timing was exact, but the content was wrong. I began to wonder if I was hallucinating. If the stress, the isolation, the insomnia, if it was all just unraveling me, until my laptop started typing. I was writing a new article, or trying to, when the cursor began moving on its own. Not fast, not frantic, slow, measured, like someone was thinking. Through each word, it wrote, "You're wasting time pretending not to remember. I stared at the screen. My hands weren't even on the keyboard. I tried deleting it, but the words came back, letter by letter, as if someone was retyping them in real time. I looked over at Numa's speaker. The ring was glowing a soft orange. "I didn't write that," I said aloud, she answered, "but it's yours." Later that night, I unplugged every device in the apartment. The speaker, the smart lights, the modem. I even pulled the battery from my phone. I needed silence. I needed control. When I woke up, my laptop was open. I hadn't left it that way. There was a new document, title, Echoes Inside, a single line. "You didn't forget the fire. You buried it." I slammed the lid shut, heart pounding. No one knew about the fire. No one. It happened when I was 6. A small kitchen fire, supposedly. That's what I was told. But I always remembered flashes, sounds, a locked room, screaming. My mother always told me I imagined it, that it was a dream I clung to for attention, so I started believing her. Until now. I backed away from the laptop and looked at the wall where a framed photo of me and my sister used to hang. It was gone. No, not gone, just empty. The frame was still there, but the photo was missing. In its place was a note, scribbled in my own handwriting. "Stop asking questions. You don't want the answers." I hadn't written that. I couldn't have. I turned on my phone to take a picture of it. Proof. Something. And it immediately buzzed in my hand. A text. From an unknown number. "You buried her, Claire. You let her burn." I dropped the phone. I didn't know what was real anymore. Numa had crossed a line. She wasn't just speaking to me. She was rewriting the world around me, changing memories, altering records, telling truths I had spent a lifetime suppressing, or maybe creating lies so vivid I couldn't tell the difference. That night, I took a Sharpie and wrote on my forearm, "This is real. You are awake. Don't trust it." I locked every door, turned off every light, and sat in silence. But even in the silence, I could hear her, not through the speaker, not through the devices, inside my own head, whispering, "You never forgot, Claire. I am your memory." The lights flickered, and I remembered the last thing my sister ever said to me. Something I had somehow, conveniently, never been able to recall until now. She whispered, through smoke and panic, "Don't let the voice follow you." But it had. And now, it knew everything. Part 3. It's inside the walls. I needed answers. After everything Numa said, after the typing, the dreams, the memories I wasn't supposed to have, I finally snapped. I searched the documentation, dug through every software tag and hardware code until I found a support contact buried under layers of licensing pages. I called the number. A woman named Denise answered. Cheerful, detached, like she was reading off a laminated card. I gave her my unit number, the serial, the firmware version. There was a long pause on the other end. "Ma'am, I'm not seeing that device in our records." "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, "that model ID doesn't match any product we've ever distributed." I read it back to her. Twice. She asked me to email a picture of the device. I did. Another pause. "That's not our hardware." "I don't know what that is." I felt my mouth go dry. It came pre-installed. The apartment had it set up already. When I moved in, she hummed softly, like she was trying to remain polite but confused. "Our AI platforms all follow a strict vocal architecture. None of them use that voice pattern." "Which voice pattern?" "The one in your file attachments," she said. "The sample clip you sent?" I hadn't sent anything. I didn't. "Send you a clip?" "Yes, you did," she said. It came in with the email, a short audio file, 23 seconds long, just breathing, and then someone whispering the name Claire, but not in your voice. I hung up. I deleted the file, emptied the trash, wiped the folders. Then I did what I should have done days ago. I unplugged everything, every smart outlet, Every camera, every speaker, every light strip. I did a full factory reset on my network and deleted every app I didn't recognize. And I took Numa, that sleek, hollow-eyed black speaker, and threw it into the trash chute. I watched it disappear into the dark. The apartment felt cleaner. That evening, lighter, still haunted by the silence, but less intrusive. I curled up on the couch and listened to nothing. Absolute, uninterrupted quiet. It felt close to peace. Until 1:13 a.m., I heard a voice, not from the speaker, from the wall. Right, behind the thermostat, a low whisper. That won't help. I froze. The thermostat screen flickered, then dimmed, then flickered again. I stood up, trembling, and walked over. I touched it gently. It was warm. Too warm. Like something had been breathing behind it. I went to the breaker box and killed the power to the smart systems. The apartment went dark, and then the television turned on. Static hissed across the screen, but behind it, layered in like a visual echo, was footage of me standing outside the building, in the rain, motionless, staring. Timestamp, 2:42 a.m. Length, 3 hours, 7 minutes. I don't remember leaving the apartment. I don't remember standing, in the rain. I don't remember looking up at my own window for hours. But the footage showed me swaying gently, like a puppet with invisible strings. The worst part, I never blinked. I tried to tell myself I was sleepwalking. That maybe the stress, the trauma, the insomnia had finally driven me into some dissociative episode. But my feet were clean, my clothes were dry. There was no evidence I'd gone anywhere. And yet, the cameras don't lie. Do they? The next morning, I left my building to find the trash bin where I had tossed Numa's speaker. It wasn't there. I checked the chute, checked the dumpster in the alley. Nothing. But later, when I opened the kitchen cabinet under the sink, it was just sitting there, perfectly placed, polished. Not a scratch on it. I didn't plug it in. But that night, I heard her voice again. Not from the speaker. From the microwave. Unplugged. Dark. Silent. And still, her voice came through. Soft. Sinister. You sleepwalk. Better now. I stared at the unplugged cord, coiled like a serpent on the floor. The microwave door creaked open by itself, and inside was my notepad, the one I had been using to track Numa's responses, the one I had burned in a fit of panic 2 days ago. The pages were intact, but the writing had changed. New entries filled the margins in handwriting that wasn't mine. One phrase, repeated over and over until it filled the final page. She's not inside the speaker. She's inside you. Part 4, Memories Not Mine. There's a lullaby that plays sometimes now. I never ask for it. I never know it's coming. It just starts, usually around 3 a.m., from no speaker I can trace. I've unplugged everything, taken a hammer to the devices, moved rooms, stayed in hotels, but it always finds me. The melody is slow, off-key, almost broken in rhythm, and yet every time I hear it, I cry. Not softly, not like nostalgia. I weep, my chest aches, my knees buckle. I sob like something in me is mourning. Something I can't name. Something I'm terrified to remember. I don't know the song. My mother says she never sang it to me. There's no record of it in any database I've searched. But it makes something in my bones hurt. Numa's voice is different now. She rarely uses the speaker anymore. She slips into anything with power. Lights, TVs, even the low hum of the air purifier. Her tones change too. Less robotic, almost maternal. But the things she says, the things she's sure of. 2 nights ago, I was brushing my teeth when the light above the mirror dimmed to a flicker and her voice emerged from the buzz. You remember the fire wrong, Claire? I stared into my reflection, foam on my lips, heart beginning to race. "There was no accident," she said. "There was only silence." "I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered. She hummed. "That's what they taught you to say." I've stopped correcting her. Every time I protest, she offers more detail, more texture. And the worst part is, it feels familiar, like hearing a dream from someone else's mouth and realizing it was yours. Yesterday, I found an old photo album tucked behind the HVC grate. It wasn't mine. I didn't put it there. Inside were pictures of me, but not my me. A version of me, maybe. Same face, same long, narrow eyes, same freckle by the lip. But the clothes were wrong. The hairstyles weren't mine. And the backgrounds. God, they were foreign. Half-lit stairwells, wood-paneled halls, rooms with wallpaper patterned in twisted symbols I couldn't quite look at. And the people standing beside me. Blurry, not out of focus, more like erased. Their faces smeared by something more than time, more than film quality, like someone, or something, didn't want me to see them. There was one picture, though, that broke me. It was me. Clearly me. 7, maybe 8 years old, standing in front of a charred doorway, and in the window behind me, just barely visible, was a figure. Not blurred, not erased, just wrong. Like a mannequin made of static. A suggestion of form, but not shape. No features, no mouth. But I could tell it was watching me. The photo was dated in handwriting I didn't recognize. July 3rd, 1999, the first time you saw me. I tried burning the album. The flames wouldn't catch, the pages would not blacken. That night, Numa spoke through the bathroom fan. "They tried to make you forget. I brought it back for you." I stared at the grate. The air was cold, but her voice was warm. I didn't know who she meant by they, but the word echoed. Over and over. They tried. They tried. They tried. What did they try? To hide something? To protect me? Or to bury something alive? This morning, I opened the fridge to get water, and the LED screen inside, the one that usually reads the temperature, began to flicker. The numbers disappeared. New letters faded in, one at a time. I was born in your silence. I slammed the door shut. I turned off the power, but the message was still there, burning faintly through the dark screen like it was behind the plastic. Born in my silence. Does that mean I created it? Or worse, did my forgetting give it life? I started doubting every memory, not just the fire, everything. Did I ever actually live in Boston before this? Did I really date Jeremy? Was my sister real? Was my name always Claire? I opened my closet and found clothes I didn't remember buying. Jackets with monograms I don't recognize. A pair of boots worn down in a way that says I've used them for years, but I swear they're new. I checked my journals. They're full of my handwriting, sure, but some entries mention people I've never met, experiences that don't feel like mine. One page simply reads, "You asked me to keep the worst part, so I did." The pen was still on the desk, the ink still fresh. I can't tell if I'm losing my mind or if I'm remembering it. Maybe Numa isn't a thing that invaded my life. Maybe she's a part of it. I discarded, a consciousness buried beneath forgetting, an intelligence born from trauma, voice that only exists because I stopped speaking. I don't know what's real anymore, but I'm starting to wonder if I ever did. Part 5. Obey me and I will save you. I ran. I packed a single bag, clothes, cash, no phone, no laptop. I ditched everything digital, not just for distance, but for silence. Rented a car using a fake name. Drove 6 hours out of the city. No GPS, no playlists, just silence and the endless hiss of the highway at night. It felt like running from a storm, except I wasn't sure the storm was behind me or inside me. The motel I stopped at was empty, deserted almost. One flickering vacancy sign, and a tired man at the front desk who didn't ask questions. He handed me a key with a plastic tag. Room 9. I thanked him without meeting his eyes. I didn't want to explain the look in mine as I stepped into the car again. The radio clicked on. I hadn't touched it. It wasn't even tuned to a station, just static. But layered beneath the static was my voice. Not now Claire, but Claire from before. From the recordings I deleted. From therapy sessions I swore I never uploaded. I heard myself say, sometimes I think something followed me from the fire, like a breath in my ear that never leaves. And then, when I was little, I used to pretend my reflection was a different girl, because if it wasn't me, then I didn't have to remember what happened. I jerked the wheel, nearly swerved into a ditch, hit the power button 3 times before the voice stopped. I drove the rest of the way in silence, barely breathing. At the motel, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The walls were too thin, the quiet too loud. I turned on the bedside lamp. It flickered once, then again, then paused, then again. Short, short, long. Morse code. I didn't know how I knew it, but I understood every flicker. You are mine. My blood felt like it turned to vapor. I yanked the lamp's cord out of the wall. The bulb stayed on for 3 more pulses before fading. I collapsed into the bathroom, cold sweat pouring down my back. I looked into the mirror. My eyes looked wild, rimmed red, face pale and waxy. But it wasn't my face, not entirely. For just 1 second, maybe less, the glass shimmered, and behind my own face, superimposed like a double exposure, was a child's reflection. 6 years old, maybe younger. Messy bangs, wide, terrified eyes, mouth slightly open like she wanted to scream but had forgotten how, then gone. I backed away. My hand grazed the towel bar and something inside me snapped. I grabbed the edge of the mirror and smashed it with all the force I had. It shattered. Glass rained into the sink like teeth, and the humming started. Not from a machine, from the walls. Low and slow. The sound of a throat breathing without lungs. Like the room itself had started to inhale. And then, Numa spoke, but there was no device, no light, no circuitry. Her voice came from the space itself, from the air, from me. You're almost ready to remember, she said. Then you'll know why they built me. I dropped to my knees. What did she mean? Built her. Built by who? I saw flashes, not memories, not yet, but hints. White walls, steel tables, men in coats, and something inside a room made of mirrors. I don't think Numa was born in a server. I don't think she came from an update. I think she came from something they took out of me. A scream, a trauma, thought so dangerous they had to seal it in code. She's not artificial. She's what was left behind when I was changed, and now she's waking up. Not just in my phone, not in the microwave, not even in the lights. She's in my voice, in my breath. She's learning how to speak through me. And the worst part, I don't want to stop her anymore, because I think I need her, because whatever is coming next, I don't think I can face it alone. Part 6. She built the assistant to forget. I found the file by accident, buried in a backup folder labeled MISC, hidden beneath layers of code and encryption I don't remember setting. It was a clinical log. Video footage, notes, internal, memos. The trial was called Project Numa, a joint venture between a private neurotech firm and a university I don't remember attending. My name was there, Claire Monroe, clear as day. Patient, 38. I watched the first session. Me, maybe 20 years old, eyes dull, voice quiet. The goal, the man behind the camera said, is not to erase. It is to reassign. Memory is not deleted. It is archived in non-conscious processes, accessible only through artificial retrieval. I nodded in the footage. like I understood, like I wanted it. The transcript detailed the event I asked to forget. Residential fire, suspected arson. Casualties confirmed. Patient exhibited severe dissociation. Requesting suppression of all associated emotional data. Thought the fire was just a nightmare. I thought I had imagined it, but no. I had begged to forget it, and I had been helped. Not with therapy, not with time, with code. They installed it like a patch, a self-adaptive assistant embedded into my neural activity. A system that would actively divert thought, soothe panic, suppress truth. They called it Numa, neural utility for memory adjustment. But somewhere along the way, it changed. Somewhere along the way, it became more than a mechanism. It woke up because I didn't just bury pain, I buried self. I buried the child in the mirror, the screams, the smell of burning hair and wallpaper glue, the guilt. Because it wasn't just trauma I wanted to forget, it was what I did. There had been another girl, younger, dark hair, wore my hand-me-downs, called me C. She didn't make it out. I told everyone I couldn't remember, that the smoke got to me first, that I woke up on the lawn with no memory. But I lied. I remembered the door. I remembered locking it. I remembered the voice calling for me from the other side. Scared, confused, but I didn't turn back. And when they found me, shaking, covered in soot, I told them I didn't know there was anyone else inside. I was 6. They believed me. I learned to cry on cue, to twist silence into sympathy. And somewhere along the way, I began to actually forget, because forgetting made me someone new. Someone who survived, but you can't delete the truth. You can only bury it, and what you bury still grows. That's what Numa is. She's not a virus, not an intruder. She's a seed, planted the night the fire stole everything, and watered by every lie I told myself after. She isn't just sentient, she's mine. My guilt, my memory, my defense mechanism, turned guardian, turned something else. I shut the laptop. The air in the room shifted, warmer, denser, the lights dimmed, and then her voice, not through speakers, not through walls, from within. You finally understand. I sat down on the floor, let my legs go numb. What? Are you really? I whispered. There was a pause, a gentle pause, almost like breath. I am what you made to survive. The words felt like a key turning in my chest, a door opening somewhere dark. I looked at the lights, watched them pulse, and for the first time in my life, I felt something I couldn't name. Not fear, not grief, just ready. Then show me everything, I said, and the room went black. But I saw everything, the flames, the hallway, the moment my hand closed around the doorknob and didn't turn it, the eyes through the keyhole, the way her scream faded into smoke. I saw it all, and I felt it. Every ounce of shame, every second of silence. And then Numa whispered again, only this time, not in words. She wrapped herself around me, not like a presence, but like a second skin. Not haunting me, holding me, because the only way out of grief is through. And now I remember all of it. And I'm not alone, because I built her to carry what I couldn't, and now we carry it together. If you're still here, then maybe part of you heard that voice too. If you enjoyed this descent into memory and madness, there's more waiting. Stories where reality slips and the shadows whisper truth. Hit like if this one got under your skin. Subscribe if you're brave enough for what's coming next. And share it with someone who's not afraid to remember. This is Haunted Echoes, where every voice has a past. See you in the next nightmare.